Hey everyone, welcome back to the Always Arsenal show with me, PG, Amanda, whatever you want to call me. Thank you for joining us. Tonight I've got two Jameses in the house. But that one, we're going to call Cookie. Cookie, welcome to my show.
Thanks, Amanda. Twice in the space of a week.
I know.
I can't quite believe it. Thank you for having me on.
You are welcome. James and I was on the Same Old Arsenal 4 Men and a Mic and a Girl sort of podcast in the week, weren't we? We were discussing the game at Aston Villa, and really, really thankful and really happy to say that James McNicholas, aka Gunnerblogg, has come to the show and is our guest tonight. Hello, James.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Delighted to be here. And I'm Sky Plus in the Apprentice final, so it's fine. I'm going to catch up with that later.
I don't watch it. I know it's Alan's 75th birthday today because I know his daughter.
Right.
But
is it?
I don't watch it. He is, yeah, he's 75 today. He even announced it on Twitter. But welcome to my show. I can't believe I'm even saying my show. Looking forward to chatting with you in a second. Everyone in the chat room, hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. I said I would do that once, Craig. I've nicked Craig's tagline. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the chat room. And we are going to be asking James some questions later. So please hold on. And then when I say questions for James, shout some in the chat room and I'll ask him. So James, I don't know where to start. You're writer, performer, screenwriter, actor, blogger. Are there no end to your talents?
Well, there's this phrase, isn't there? Jack of all trades, master of none. I suspect there's some element of that. I'm hedging my bets. You know what I mean? I'm not picking one course because that's too scary. But now I've got a lot of different plates that I'm spinning. But that's nice. Keeps it interesting, you know.
What? Yeah, well, of course. I mean, obviously, I know you from Arscast Extra with Andrew, which is obviously Arsblog. I want to go into that in a second, but I just want to start with something that was a headline in the Daily Star because I want to know what you were doing there. So I'm just going to read out what the Daily Star's headline was. The estate which Real Madrid legend Zinedine Zidane grew up on is riddled with crime, but football journalist James McNicholas entered La Castellane unaware of its troubled past in Marseille. Okay, so then I saw your story last night saying, I wasn't forced out, I wasn't ran out. So what were you doing there and what happened?
Well, yeah, I mean, by the way, someone in the comments, Aaron Bangal, has said, is James live from the slums of Marseille? No, this is my house. This is where I live. This is my flat in Muswell Hill. But lovely that you would describe it thus. I was in Marseille. I went on last Friday and I went to the Marseille game at the weekend. They played Nice. And I watched our friends William Saliba and Matteo Guendouzi play against Nice. Incredible atmosphere, brilliant experience. First time I'd ever been to the Velodrome. And wow, it really is something special. But while I was there, I was researching this other piece about Zinedine Zidane's childhood. And I knew that he'd grown up in this quite rough estate in the north of the city called La Castellane. I read about it in a couple of books about him. And I thought, I'll just pop up there. I'll just go and see what's going on. Because, I know estates. I know estates in London. And I was like, how bad can it be? The answer is it's very, very, very bad. I walked in and as soon as I walked onto the estate, there was a guy in a balaclava with a radio. And I could see him looking at me and sort of radioing it to somebody. And I was like, well, that's not good. So I tried going in another way, and there was more guys with balaclavas and radios. A load of guys come out on scooters and sort of surrounded me. And basically they explained very politely that it was essential that I leave immediately, that I was essentially not welcome in the estate. I don't think anybody, I think it's, it's having looked further into it since, there's a lot of kind of gang warfare and, drug dealing territory. And when I Googled it, the first story that came up on French Google was that 2 people had been executed in the square in the middle of the estate. And I was like, I probably did well to get out of there, to be honest.
James, first of all, did you go on your own?
Yeah.
Are you a bit sort of...
Screw loose? Maybe. Or am I just under-researched? I guess if I was trying to show off, I'd be like, "Well, I'm just a very good journalist, guys. I just want to experience it all for myself." The truth is, I hadn't done enough research. I hadn't done enough googling.
So
but
when
I
you
thought I could handle it.
But when you were circled, James, were you not like panic stricken, like I've got to get out of here or not?
Let me tell you, my GCSE French came out. I was asking them if they knew where the bibliothèque was. How do I reserve a chambre pour deux personnes à l'auberge de jeunesse? I was doing all my GCSE French. It was a bit spicy. It was a bit nerve wracking, but
Oh my God.
it's all good colour
Right.
for the piece,
James,
as we say.
But how did the Daily Star know?
They just watched my Instagram story, apparently. Somebody sent it to me. It was in the Daily Star and it was in the Sun. So only the finest publications have picked it up. And they basically just quoted my entire... I did an Instagram story explaining what happened, and they turned that into an article because that quantifies news now, which is strange for me. But in all seriousness, do be careful in Marseille. It is quite a spicy city, and I probably should have taken more precautions. But I'm here,
yes,
and I'm here with you guys, so it's all well in the end.
Right, so we've done that. I was a bit curious when I saw that on your story, and I thought, well, what do you mean he was run out? So now I understand everything. You've just obviously got this very laid-back attitude, and just thought you'd walk into an estate in Marseille.
It's like one of the crime hotspots of Europe, essentially.
Why not?
And then basically, I was Googling it, and Ross Kemp does those shows about like the world's most dangerous places. Well, he had done one where he had gone to this place, and he went in like a car with 2 bodyguards. So I was just explaining about how, he's basically a coward. He took the coward's route. You know what I mean? I'm the real deal.
Oh my God. Well, I'm so pleased you're safe and you're well with us.
Thank you. I'm an idiot. Yeah.
You mentioned Saliba, and there's so many people that have just jumped. So I'm going to ask you very quickly this question from Riziki. What do you think about Saliba's "my future is open" comments? Just trying to get a better contract, or do you think he wants to leave?
I think it's a relatively unusual case of a footballer being quite honest. I think his future is quite open. I think what's really interesting is that he's had this call up to the France squad, which I don't think he necessarily anticipated. They've got huge strength in depth in defence, but they've had a couple of absentees, and he's come up. And I think that will be an interesting kind of ingredient in his decision about his future, because for any young French player, the prospects of going to the World Cup in December is a huge thing, massive significance. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that weighs. I genuinely think it's open. I don't think he knows at this point where his future lies. I think there are meetings at the end of the season scheduled about that to discuss it. He's really insistent that he wants to focus on Marseille for now. They're like us in a battle for Champions League qualification. Like us, they're sort of leading that at the present time. They're doing pretty well. Got a big win over Nice at the weekend, like I say. And I think, footballers often say stuff like, I'm thinking about the end of the season. I believe in this case that is accurate. I think he just wants to focus on the job at hand. And I think there's not great clarity about where he is in the plans at Arsenal. I don't think it's like he's been told, you're our guy next season. I think, this is all kind of to be discussed, to be determined. So it's very, very hard to call right now. I think I couldn't say with confidence, will he be at Arsenal or not next season? I would be fibbing if I did.
Okay, that's interesting. So Carl Stark says, how good is Saliba? Could he do a job for us next season if he's with us, obviously?
I think he could definitely do a job. I mean, I've been to watch him twice. I went to watch him when he was at St Etienne in the first season on loan after he joined us. And then I went back to see him this weekend at Marseille. And I think he's got all the tools you would want, really, in a centre-half. I mean, physically is the main... When you go and see him live, the main thing that strikes you is his size. He's massive. He's been the biggest player on the pitch every time I've seen him play. And he's just got this huge frame. He uses it really well. Very comfortable on the ball. Never really looks panicked. Very composed. And that's not to say he's perfect, He does make mistakes. And in this game at the weekend, he was quite lucky not to give away a penalty. There are a couple of rash challenges. He plays on the right of a back three. And sometimes when the ball goes out to the channel, he looks a bit uncomfortable. He looks like a centre-half sort of going out to play fullback. And it can be a bit wild in those areas. But he's 20. In fact, he's 21 today,
God,
I think
is
I'm right
he?
in saying. And we've been talking about him for years, so you forget that. But in the life of a centre-back, it's absolutely no age. And, realistically, his peak could be 5 years away, 6 years away, 7 years away. So I think, could he do a job? Yes. I think he, if you think about the fact we started this season with Pablo Mari taking up a place in the squad, of course, I think Saliba could come in and probably fare better than that. I think he's going to be a good player going forward. If you're getting in that France squad, you've got to have something about you. They've got so many options. I think that the decision and the question is all about opportunity for him. And he's played basically every minute for Marseille this season. No player has played more minutes for Marseille than William Saliba. He has been essential to everything they do. And I think the question for him now is he prepared to go back from that? Is he prepared? So, because looking at the situation at Arsenal, he'll be looking at that and saying, Ben White and Gabriel are doing pretty well. How do I break that? How do I get into that? And even with European football, I still think opportunities will be limited. So that's what he'll be weighing up, I guess, come the end of the season.
What do you think, Cooks?
It's such a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, I'd be absolutely devastated if he left and we haven't seen him play a first team minute. That's the thing that frustrates me the most about this. And I think as Arsenal fans, well, just as football fans, we sometimes have this false impression that players who are contracted to Arsenal should absolutely love the club and be dedicated to the club. And I think a lot of people feel that way with Saliba. And I just think from his perspective, he's very right to be open, and I find it hard to blame him because he has had 3 loans away from the club now. We don't really know what his future is. And like James says, you're looking at our defence at the moment, Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel and Tierney, and I wouldn't swap him for any of them. And you're not going to break up that partnership of Gabriel and White at the moment. The only way I can genuinely see him cementing a place in this team, well, not even cementing a place, I really like the idea of going away to big teams like City, like Liverpool, potentially lining up with a back three of Saliba, Gabriel and White. I love the idea that they can all play the ball so well. They're also capable of defending to a really good level. That's something that I find really tantalising. Whether we'd do that, I'm not too sure. It would go away from everything we've been doing this season. But apart from that, getting into the Champions League games or Europa League games, whatever it may be, you don't really see a clear pathway for him into the first team. And I think he's not an idiot. He's definitely going to be able to see that as well. So I think it very much is open, but I would be disappointed, like I say, if we didn't see him make any appearances for us, because he is such a talented player. That much is obvious.
Yeah. Well, people are desperate to see him, though, both of you. They non-stop on Twitter. When Arteta wasn't doing so well and the team weren't doing so well, it was Saliba this, Saliba that, Saliba this. And we'll just have to wait and see. But obviously he's got a plan, Arteta. If he's only, 21, James, he must have a, plan. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we won't even see him next season. Maybe if we get Champions League, it'll all be different. We'll talk about that in a moment. So I just want to go back a little bit, James, right? You told me before we went on air you're 35. Okay, so There's a little bit of an age difference between you and I. How did you become a Gooner?
It's quite a prosaic story, really. It's not too romantic. My family are predominantly Chelsea fans and some QPR fans. My family are from West London, really. And my dad's a Chelsea fan. And when I was a kid, he took me to a shop with my brother to buy us a Chelsea shirt each. And for some reason, I think I was about 4 or 5, I had a strop in the shop and I was like, I don't want that shirt. Some sort of intuition in me knew that it wasn't right. And they were like, what do you mean you don't want it? It's Chelsea. I was like, no, I just don't want it. I don't want that blue shirt. I want that red one over there. And I guess I was quite into red at the time. And something about it, maybe it had the cannon on it. I don't know. But I just thought it was cool. And my dad because he's not a huge football fan, he's not that passionate. I think, and Chelsea, to be fair, they were rubbish at the time, so he let me have the Arsenal shirt, and it just went from there. So it's completely arbitrary. I could have been pointing at a Charlton Athletic shirt. It could have been anything. Could have been Nottingham Forest. Could have been whatever. But it happened to be Arsenal. And I think because me and my brother, that we then supported different teams, I think it made us much more passionate about it. It was like our thing that we sort of argued
rivalry
about, or every Saturday it was, who did better. So in the way that you and your siblings sometimes grew up in opposition to each other, I think it became sort of part of our identity. And like he's a Chelsea season ticket holder to this day. I'm an Arsenal season ticket holder to this day. So, and the rivalry's always been there. So that's how it came to me.
Okay, but then, so you decide at that age you want to be a Red fan. He's a Blue fan. So then what was your first match? How did you get to go to, what was it, Highbury or the Emirates?
It would have been Highbury. And I was lucky. I had a mate at school, Jonathan Pearson. Shout out Jonathan Pearson. Haven't seen him for a while, but good to give him a shout out. And his dad had season tickets in the old East Stand in Highbury. And every so often, he would sort of give me a call and say, "Oh, we've got a ticket. Do you want to come?" And I used to go with them. And I actually don't remember the first game, which is a shame because people ask me that question all the time.
I was just going to ask you that, yeah.
Yeah, but I do remember the sensation. I do remember sort of being inside Highbury. I remember everything outside. I remember the sweets. I remember,
I
remember all the sweet stalls and all the food, and then going out onto the pitch and seeing that immaculate pitch. I loved Highbury so much.
Yeah.
And I used to go with them. And then I used to sort of like get tickets and go on my own from when I was quite young. Like I would have been like 12, 13 or something like that. And if I used to get a ticket, I would just go. So it was like a real passion for me. But I didn't get a season ticket until quite a lot later. I think it was sort of I think maybe like the final couple of years at Highbury, I managed to get a season ticket.
Oh, right. So, okay. So where did you sit or stand?
At Highbury, I was right behind the dugout. And that was brilliant as well. I loved that because it was sort of the first time you sort of got to see stuff in the game that was like more than you see on telly. It was like, I knew when they were going to make a substitution because I'd see Arsene Wenger chatting to Pat Rice, or I'd see them send somebody out to warm up. And I loved that. I loved having that sort of inside track. And that's probably why I've ended up doing what I've been doing. But yeah, I used to study them, and I was such a nerd. I mean, that won't be a shock to anybody, but I used to go down and like watch the warm-ups and be like, what are they doing in the warm-up? Who looks sharp? Who doesn't? What are the conversations going on the touchline? I just used to soak up as much information as I could. So yeah, in Highbury, I was literally a couple of yards behind the dugout. And I remember there was a monitor there that they used to watch the replays on. So, you'd always see Arsene kind of going back to the monitor to watch a foul or a disallowed goal or a penalty appeal and just going absolutely mad if it hadn't gone his way. So yeah, that's why I was at Highbury. It was somebody's season ticket that they weren't able to take up, and I sort of took it off them. But then when they moved to the Emirates, I got one in my own name, that was a big landmark in itself. So
what year did you first go to Highbury then?
It would have been 86, like 94 kind of time. 94. God. I mean, funnily enough, the season I really got into supporting Arsenal was the year that we weren't very good and we finished 12th. Was that 95 maybe?
Well, was that when George Graham was gone? And we had Riddock, and then Wenger came, didn't he? And then you literally started with watching Arsenal when Bergkamp came then.
Basically, literally. So I remember the season we finished 12th, which I think was 94, 95 or 95, 96. I forget. I think we actually finished behind Chelsea that season, which was a real blow.
You and your brother.
Yeah, I know. But then, you're right. Then in came Rioch, and crucially in came Bergkamp. And it's no coincidence, I think, that I think the age you are when you're sort of 15, 18, that period is quite defining football, I think, for all fans. And I was so lucky. When I was 18, we went unbeaten. Like that was like the height of my adolescence and my independence and going to games and, you know, really just being so passionate and in love with the sport. And I was watching the best team in the world as far as I was concerned. And I think that's why it's kind of such a strong lifelong thing for me, because those formative years were just so incredible. But what's weird is even though I was quite young, I remember, and I don't know if you guys experienced this, but when we were watching the Invincibles, I mean, Cookie, you're probably too young actually to remember this, but I remember watching them and being very conscious that we might not ever see it again. Like I remember thinking, wow, we're so lucky to have this collection of players together. And like,
do you remember what Wenger said, James? Do you remember what Wenger said?
No, go on.
He said, you don't realise how lucky you are to watch this. And I jumped right back because I started mid-70s. So through my school years, early 80s, we were rubbish. I used to go to the Highbury, put my feet over the seat and do my hand clapping. I was 14-ish at the time. And then we had Don Howe, Terry Neal. So you're talking just Wenger onwards. I was thinking you were going to mention George Graham, but you're not old enough. So I've had all that.
I just look old, yeah.
No. Excuse me. No, so when we were talking, it was so weird for me because you started at Wenger. It's so weird for me because I'm used to talking about the 80s and stuff like that. But you came in at a time where it was awful for George Graham, Stuart Houston, Bruce Rioch, Dennis walks in, it's all up in the air. And in walks in this manager that had been managing in Japan. To be fair, for me, I'd never really heard of him. And I would never sit here and say I did. I remember opposite the Marbles Hall, we all stood there and said, how Arsene Wenger? Well, you know, we didn't know. We didn't know anything. We didn't have social media then. Remember all that? We just I don't even know if we had phones. I don't think we did. So, and then we saw the best football of our lives. There is no doubt. No doubt. So you came in right at the right time. And I remember him saying about the Invincibles, don't take this for granted. This is virtually perfect football. You might not see this again. As you're saying that, it's so true. And this is why it's been so hard for fans with Arteta and Emery, because of what we had. I've been there before, so we didn't have that before. Obviously, for me, the best footballing night of my life, which I'm going to say again, obviously, was the 26th of May, 1989. And in my head, nothing can beat that unless we play Tottenham in the Champions League and score at final and score in the last moments. You know, nothing can beat, you know, what I was at Anfield that night. But I remember Wenger saying that. And the Invincibles was I don't know how you would explain it more than pure football, just beautiful to watch. And other teams loved us as well. I mean, obviously not Tottenham, probably not Chelsea, probably not United, but other teams loved watching Wenger ball, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that team going to Portsmouth and places like that, and Thierry Henry being given standing ovations. I mean, everybody had to take their hat off to them because they were so entertaining. You know, it wasn't like the Mourinho teams that followed that were quite sort of, you know, they ground out results. This was champagne football. Not all the time. I'm sure we've got some rose-tinted spectacles, but I just thought, yeah, athletically, technically, there was such a magical feel about that team. And so how could you not be inspired by it, you know? And I really was. And so everything that's followed since with me and Arsenal, to be honest, I think I probably owe to Arsene Wenger because of the team he created and the football that team played.
It was, do you know what? I've only cried twice in my life at Highbury in Arsenal. Sad to cry. First one was when Robert Perez got injured. I literally at Highbury, and I knew it was a bad one. It was down the other end because I sit in the East Upper, so above you, where you was behind the dugout. And I watched Perez go down to the clock end and collapse. And I honestly, I sobbed. I was like, this is it. He's out. And he was. And it was absolutely horrific. And the other one was when Paul Gascoigne scored in the semi-final at Tottenham, Wembley. I don't even want to go down there. But that was one of my other moments. But Perez, for me, was the ultimate. I know he had his issues with maybe a little bit of play acting, a little bit of diving, but what a footballer. And it is really tough to think that how many years ago that was, and we're not going to see that for a long time yet. But okay, so James, so you're a little lad in the East Stand lower, behind the dugout. You're in your teenage years, you're a big supporting Gooner. Then what followed? So you was at school. Did you have an instinct to be a journalist? Is that what you wanted to do?
Not really. I mean, I guess I was just so enamored with football and with Arsenal that it sort of was consuming, and like anybody, like people today who've got a Twitter account and they just tweet about it all the time. But it was before all that. So I was doing that on like old Arsenal websites, old forums that aren't really there anymore, like Arsenal World and Arseweb and Arsblog, which was around at that time. And I was just sort of, and I thought, I enjoy talking about this. I enjoy writing about it. And I started doing that for myself on my own blog, Gunnerblogg, which I did, for years and years. And I don't think I ever had it in my mind, I'll be a sports journalist, or I'll get paid for this one day, or this will be a living. It honestly was just a hobby. And that's why I feel really lucky, because the things in my life that I've been passionate about and that have been hobbies or things that, I've just done for the pleasure of it, have ultimately become the things I do all the time. And I know how lucky and how privileged I am to be in that position. So it was kind of an accident, really. But it just grew and grew. And I was very lucky as well, because I started doing that sort of thing at a time when not everyone was doing it. In these days, there were only a few Arsenal websites. And if you happen to be one of those guys, then you could get a lot of traffic. Now, if I was people say to me all the time now, I want to start an Arsenal website. I want to start an Arsenal podcast. I want to do a YouTube channel. And I almost don't know what to tell them, because it's like, there's just so many now. It's so hard to stand out. And that's luck and timing, and that plays a part in everything. So it just sort of happened quite organically. But obviously, I was thrilled and I was excited. And when I remember the first time someone said to me, like, do you want to go and watch a game in the press box or something like that? I was just like, yeah. But obviously, that would be incredible. They give you free food. It's mad. And I went in there, and I remember a sports journalist who I really respected and admired said to me, he knew me from like the blog, or we'd met a couple of times. I remember I went in and he said to me, what are you doing here? And there was like horror on his face. It was like, how's this guy got in? And I felt sort of like, on the one hand, I was like a bit hurt. But on the other hand, I completely understood what he meant. Because it was like this amateur, this plucky amateur was suddenly, behind closed doors in the sort of the inner sanctum of the press box. And it was quite early on for that sort of thing to happen. I think now it's a bit more democratic, a bit more mixed. I think, access is a little bit more relaxed. But at the time, it was weird for them, and it was weird for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, Cookie, we're talking about Highbury. Did you get to go or not? Are you too young?
No, I mean, I don't even think it's a case of being too young. I'm really ashamed to say that I didn't get to go to Highbury, because I'm not going to go into the background of why I support Arsenal, but my family originates from Dalston. So, my granddad, who unfortunately I never met, got to walk down to Highbury on a regular basis. Then my family emigrated to the sunny town of Romford. Fun fact, lived just down the road from where Ray Parler and Tony Adams used to go drinking. Yeah. And my dad refused a pint in there with Tony Adams, to my disbelief. Couldn't believe it at the time. Went home to my mum's curry. God knows why. But that aside, no, I didn't get tickets to go and see Arsenal until I was 15. My first game was 2011 at home to Udinese. Terrible game. Theo Walcott scored the only goal. And then it was kind of backs to the walls against the mighty Di Natale at the time. Not the best first game. But no, from that moment on, I've hardly missed a game at the Emirates.
So you've really not seen us at our best, have you? 2011, a couple of cup finals maybe, but you haven't seen us at our best, have you?
Well, I mean, I was there for the Invincibles, but I'd be lying if I said I've got really distinct memories of them. The one memory that really sticks in my mind, first of all, was the 2005 FA Cup final. I really remember that one. And then from there, I mean, my dad at the time was never hugely passionate about it. It was only when I started saying, you know, I really want to go to the games, that he started to go to the games. And then we both got season tickets at the same time. And I was going, you know, when I first started going, it was quite easy to get junior Gunner, Cannon Club tickets a lot more. Don't have the luxury of that now, unfortunately, despite still looking about 13. And I just fell in love with the atmosphere of it. And I think, you know, in just over a decade of going, I'm sure we'll get onto this later, but at the current moment, I think the atmosphere around the club is probably the best it's been in a while, because there's been some really bleak times over the past couple of years, and there were some really tough times. You know, even when we were getting top four consistently, a lot of unrest amongst the fan base. But now it feels, like I said, I'm sure we'll get onto this, but it feels really good at the moment.
Yeah, it does. Oh, they're so good. It's weird, different decades of what people. I feel really old, honestly. My first game was 1973. I was 4. See, where your dads maybe weren't. My dad is absolutely obsessed, and he's 76 now, and still as obsessed, James, honestly, as anyone you'll ever meet. I mean, no, literally, he walks around his local shopping area in his Arsenal cap, Arsenal tracksuit, you know, he's literally dressed in it, and everyone knows who he is. We don't live in a village. We live in a normal city, you know, like a normal town. It's not like a little village. Everyone says to me, "Oh, saw your dad today." Yeah, or talking about the Arsenal. It's all the time, bless him. And obviously that's how 100%. I was born Arsenal, honestly. I mean, me and my brother were born in July out of the football season, James. That tells you it all, doesn't it?
He planned that. He planned that very well.
Everything was planned. Honestly, everything was planned. Right. So you're moving on a little bit now. You're coming out of school.
Yeah.
You've been in your press box. You've had your free food. You've enjoyed your time, and now you're fully fledged into this Arsenal world. Okay. What happens when you leave school? Where do you end up? Because there's so many things that you're doing at the moment. I don't know where you started.
Wilderness years. It's about a decade in the wilderness, I think. But basically, I went to university, and I went to drama school for a year after that. And then there was about, not 10 years, but at least sort of 5 years of me sort of just trying to make ends meet, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I was doing the blog still. I was doing a lot of writing about Arsenal for nothing. And I was acting, but because I wasn't getting any success, I was acting for nothing a lot of the time in little theatres around London. So, yeah, there was quite a long period of sort of doing odd jobs. You know, I worked in call centres, selling absolute rubbish all over the phones. I sold Hillary's blinds. I worked for selling blinds and curtains over the phone for years. Viking River Cruises, sold a few of those. Yeah, it was but I was young and it was fun, and I was just trying to make it work. And then when I got into my late 20s is when I started to sort of actually, make a living at least, so that I could begin to sort of not have to do those kinds of jobs. So I was a painter, decorator. I was
jack of all trades.
Yeah, caretaker, whatever I had to do to get by. And fortunately, I just about got by. I had to borrow some money off my mum and dad one time. It was very embarrassing. I ran out completely of money. But yeah, in the end, got there. And then I started to pick up bits of work. So I think the first people who threw work my way, it might have been Bleacher Report or ESPN, just started chucking me, do you want 50 quid to write an article? And I was like, of course, that would be incredible. And then just slowly started to build from there. Fortunately, everything sort of happened at the same time, so that's always been the weird thing about my jobs, is that, like, I've always thought eventually I'll sort of be successful enough at one that I'll stop doing the other. Like, I'll be a successful enough actor that I can't be a football writer, or I'll be so busy football writing I won't be able to do acting. Unfortunately, I've not been successful enough at either yet for that to be an issue. So it's very finely balanced. I just need to keep it that way.
So Okay. One of the questions I've got for you is, when you are writing, are you only writing about Arsenal, or do you write about all football?
I'm predominantly Arsenal, 99%.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So, because my question was going to be, how do you find staying neutral? Well, you don't have to then, do you?
Well, you'd have to be neutral, but if you're doing a job well, you should try to be objective.
Mm.
And that's difficult. It is difficult. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, it's no secret that I'm an Arsenal fan, and it's no secret that, you know, I love the club and I want them to do well. When you have to criticize them, it's painful, you know, and it's cathartic sometimes, but it can be painful. But that's the job. And the one thing I will say is that, obviously, being so steeped in Arsenal as I am, I think fans appreciate that. They appreciate hearing from people like you guys who know the club intimately. You know, it's very difficult to be a kind of generalist football writer now. It's very difficult to have that degree of depth of knowledge about every football club. And I think increasingly, you know, the trend is towards specialists, people who really, really know their subject. And I guess if there's anything I know after all these years, it should be Arsenal.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So how did Arscast and Arsblog and Andrew and all this come around?
Well, Andrew I've known for years. I was a fan of his site, and he inspired me to start my own site, and we exchanged a few messages. He actually helped me set my own site up because I didn't understand internet web design or hosting or anything like that. And he helped with all of it. And that's the incredible thing about Andrew. I really think that when like competition comes along, he always welcomes it. He always supports people doing other stuff. He never closes the door. He always tries to give people a leg up. And I think there are so many people who are involved in talking about or writing about Arsenal in some way who at some point he's done them a favour, and he's got no need to do it. So that's why, I mean, he's my mate, but I really respect that about him. And we had a sort of relationship where we would be in touch. We used to speak on MSN Messenger. Shout out MSN Messenger, anyone who remembers that.
I remember those, yeah.
Yeah. And we used to go back and forth. His email was planetfabulous@hotmail.com. I'm sure he'll explain that one day. And one day he just messaged me and said, do you want to start doing a podcast? And I was like, have you got any ideas? And he was like, I reckon in the first part we'll just talk about the game, and in the second part we'll do questions. And I was like, okay. And then that was it, and we started doing it. And it's been the sort of surprise of my life, really, the degree to which that's taken off and people listen to it and like it. And I'm always very, very touched by how much people seem to enjoy it or take solace in it. You know, I think especially on the bad days, I think people really appreciate, you know, it's nice to celebrate the good days, but on a bad day, it's nice to have, you know, something familiar, something that you can sort of settle in and experience some of that catharsis.
I think sorry, Amanda, just for me, like for me, when I see Arsenal lose, we're sure we all feel the same way. But in particular, watching On the Whistle that you do, James, like I find that it resonates so well with exactly how I'm feeling, and whether it be a loss, whether it be a win, it just not that I'm trying to big you up too much, mate, but it really does. It does resonate an awful lot with me, and in those more difficult times, I found that to be a real. Not sure what the right phrase would be, but it's been a real source of comfort
cathartic
at times. Yeah,
it's a cuddle. It's an internet cuddle. I've given you an internet cuddle. No, I think that's really sweet of you. But like, what's interesting is there will equally be people who will say that my perspective or what I do doesn't resonate with them at all. And what's great about the internet or the online community is the proliferation of content. So if what you want is something different, then you can find that.
Yeah.
And I think, like, you know, we all complain about social media and it's a bit of a pain in the arse. And don't get me wrong, it drives me mad at times. But ultimately, we're making these choices ourselves. You know, we're very lucky. We've got so much content that's available to us all, and we can pick and choose as we see fit. And we can tailor our fan experience to a certain extent to our taste, to what we want. And I'm doing that too, you know. So it's I think that's the thing about these days. It's like whatever you want, whatever tone or type
Yeah,
of
you can
content you
find
want,
it.
you can
You
find
can.
it.
I was on a couple of podcasts with Andrew. I was absolutely mesmerized, James. There is just something about him and the way he talks, the way the accent, the way he is, and he was one of the very first. I mean, social media didn't even enter our minds. Didn't even know what it meant. 80s, 90s, whenever it came out. And I remember my cousin, who still comes to football with me every match. He's not on any social media, doesn't do Facebook, Twitter, nothing, doesn't do anything. He's got LinkedIn for his business. He always said to me, I said, "What's that?" He said, "Oh, it's a blog from someone called Arsblog." I said, "Who's Arsblog?" I remember like going to Highbury, like, "What's Arsblog?" And it was the only thing, and it's still to this day. He doesn't even watch my show. It's the only thing that he likes, and I think you're right. It's horses for courses, isn't it? If you want someone who's going to jump up and down, you know where you can find that. If you want someone that's just you're going to listen to and you're going to enjoy, there's loads of different things. And that's why Andrew probably welcomes everybody. No one's going to topple him, James. He's just such a everything he does is great. I can't say that. But what I do love about some of the podcasts, like the Tuesday Club, I don't know if you listen to them, it's funny. And that is the only podcast I listen to that makes me laugh out loud. When Alan Davies talks about one of our players, he's naturally a funny man anyway. And when Ian Stone's on there, Ian Stone and Alan Davies are pure Arsenal. And sometimes you just want that on a Tuesday morning, when you're driving to work or wherever. I love listening to the Tuesday Club. It just makes me laugh so much. But it is great. And I never thought I'd be doing anything like this. As I said, I've been going for 40 odd years, and there was only me, another girl called Jan, who goes to every single away game and is on every single TV every time. Saw at Aston Villa again.
I know who that is.
Jan, Gary and Natasha, who are all friends of mine from way back at Highbury, used to sit behind me. Tasha wasn't obviously born then. Fantastic friends of mine, and Maria. So there was only three of us. So Maria was in the West Stand, I was in the East Stand, and Jan was behind me. And every time Maria screamed, they all thought it was me on TV. Because no one else knew another girl that went to football. So when Match of the Day, well, it wasn't Match of the Day, whatever it was, the big match, whatever. Was that you screaming? I said, no, I'm not in the West Stand. Obviously, I didn't know who Maria was then, but it was. The days of Highbury were phenomenal, and I do feel for you, Cookie, that you never went. And I did take my son when he was 3 and 4, just so he can say he went. He hates football, not into it one bit, but he went to Highbury because I knew when it was obviously going to be sold and we were moving that I wanted him to be able to say I was at Highbury. But okay, so now you're doing all this, and now you've got Handbrake Off. I have done a little bit of research. The Athletic, you've got the Boxer live comedy show. So as you said, you've got your fingers in many pies, haven't you? What do you enjoy most? What's your most favourite?
Got to be careful what I say. Probably, I've probably got people who, who employ me, who want me to say that. To be honest, I take different satisfaction from it all. I know it's a really boring answer, but I like, listen, when Arsenal win and you're talking about an Arsenal game or writing about an Arsenal game, that's fantastic. But there are days when they don't win.
Yeah.
And it's lovely to, once you've done your job, once you've done your responsibilities, switch off and do something else, and so that's when I really relish the other opportunities. Like I said, I always thought I'd have to give something up. I always assumed eventually I've got to be a grown-up and do one thing. But increasingly, I'm like, maybe I never will, because I love being able to turn my hand to different stuff. I love being able to have a distraction. I love being able to... It stops me getting bored of anything. And I would hate that. If Arsenal, and talking about Arsenal, writing about Arsenal, football more generally, became a chore, that would be such a tragedy to me, because I love it so much. And I still, it's great being in the press box. I love it. But when they say, actually, Amy Lawrence is going in the press box, or Art de Rocha is going in the press box, you can go in your season ticket. I'm over the moon, and I'm so happy to pay the price and pay for my ticket and go as a fan, because I never want to lose that. So whatever keeps it fresh and keeps the love going. And I've got to say, like, I've really enjoyed this season. After a couple of sort of difficult years, I've really enjoyed a lot of what we've seen this season. And I'm sure people watching will feel the same. The connection that is there between the supporters and the fans. I think even, whatever you think about the quality of the team or the quality of the manager, just that sense of connection is so powerful. And that's the reason we all love football. And certainly the people who go live, I think, like, it's a thrill for that to be a joyous thing again, and for there to be such a love, between the players and the fans. I mean, we've missed that desperately.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a moment, but I've just thinking about that. I'm thinking about you, Cookie. When you were sort of your teenage years, did you have social media?
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
I mean, I've been on Twitter 10 years. So, yeah, it really came. I think Twitter really came to the fore around 2014. That's when it became a lot more. I don't know. You got a lot more football fans going on there, and it keeps exploding year on year on year. But around that time, I really found it to be, really quite a place where you could engage with other fans. Where I found, people like you guys, and over the years, connected with people that I've spoken to for 7-8 years almost, which I find crazy, absolutely crazy. But yeah, it was very much a prevalent thing, and I think it's been a huge part of me maturing as an Arsenal fan, because I suppose I was definitely very active on Twitter. I had the YouTube channel back in the day, and I'd regularly post Arsenal content, regularly interact with other Arsenal fans, and it's certainly, I think, been a big part of my Arsenal upbringing, almost, if that doesn't sound too cringy, and maybe the supporter that I am today.
No, it's true. Absolutely. But okay, so let's jump forward to now, the last few years. So it's interesting you say that, James, Gunnerblogg James, that the connection and everything. I never felt I lost the connection, but I know thousands and thousands of fans did, because of the toxicity, away games, what was going on. I was at an away game at Anfield when Wenger was still in charge, and I remember saying to someone, I can't stand down the front. Someone's going to have to swap with me. I was on my own. I couldn't stand it. It was such hatred. And obviously that again was here, probably not as bad, maybe last season. So we jump forward to this season, and everyone seems to be so in love with Arteta. So everyone's coming round from day one. James, for everyone knows me, I've supported him. I think he's trying to do the right thing. We need someone to steady that ship that Wenger left and take us forward. Now, he didn't have a great time last season. Mm-hmm. Listen, he came in, he won us the FA Cup. It was COVID. Everything was everywhere. He had to get rid of certain players that he wanted to get rid of. So when do you think that the connection came back, James?
Oh, that's a good question. I think part of it is the end of the pandemic, I have to say as well. I think that's been a factor. Fans are so happy to be back in the stands that has kind of engendered some of this support. I think what happened this summer was pretty crucial as well. Like you say, it wasn't the best season last season. We had a really poor run before Christmas as well. I think when the club made a clear strategic choice to kind of go with this group of younger players, and it's not something they communicated in the first instance. Their actions spoke louder than their words. We could see it. They signed 6 players under the age of 23. I mean, it couldn't have been more obvious, and gave out contracts to the likes of, Martinelli and Smith Rowe and others. I think people really got behind that, actually. And I know we had the very, very difficult start, and that, created a lot of debate and a lot of division and concern. But I think as soon as we started picking up results, I think people got on board pretty quickly, actually. Like even that first Norwich game, which was the first game back after that international break, when Arteta made a load of changes, I think he brought in 5 of the 6 signings or something like that. Certainly a lot of them played. I remember Tomiyasu came in for a debut. I think Lokonga played that day. White played. Ramsdale played. He made pretty big, sweeping changes as if to say, this is a new start. This is a new era. I think that really helped because I think everyone could get on board with that idea. And of course, results. I mean, the reality is results have been pretty good. There's been a couple of wobbles, but generally we've been very consistent. We've struggled against the teams who are better than us, City and Liverpool, but pretty much everyone else, I think we've been pretty solid. So that helps too. But I think it's built. And there were a lot of wounds after last season, particularly that terrible run before Christmas. And I think what we're seeing now is that a lot of those wounds are being healed and people seem to believe. They seem to have hope. And why not? We're in a really exciting position.
I think the first time that they'd sung about Mikel Arteta at Aston Villa on Saturday? That's the first time I've heard that song.
First time like that. Yeah, first time I've heard that song too. But first time I heard it like that. I mean, there's been a bit of Arteta around the past couple of games away from home, but nothing like that. I mean, the whole crowd was at it. And yeah, those scenes were fantastic. And I was pleased for him, I have to be honest, because I do think people were sort of reticent to embrace what he's doing because there are concerns that people have over him, man management or certainly inexperience, the bad run that we had that I keep referencing. But, it's taken time for people to come round, but I think people are coming round. I'm not going to say it's absolute. This is Arsenal. There's always debate. There's always people who, want a different manager in or, he didn't get on with their favourite player. So that's a problem. But if we're speaking in general terms, I think most reasonable Arsenal fans can see the job that's been done this season is a really strong one and has put us in a much improved position. Nobody's saying this is the end point or this is where we should be, but this is a really necessary step. And I've just got my fingers crossed that they can really pull off the last few games and make it to that top 4. I mean, I still think it's very tight, big ask, but that would be, it'd be some finale for the Amazon documentary. Let's put it like that.
Jesus, honestly, what a year for them to pick us.
I think any year at Arsenal is a good year. There's always chaos going on.
Okay, so last week, this is a question to both of you. Last week I did a tweet. I think I spoke about this, Cookie, didn't I, on the podcast this week about Aubameyang. Okay. And I will say it again because people have misunderstood everything I've said. I've never said Aubameyang's finished. I said he's finished at Arsenal. He's gone to Barcelona. He's doing well. Great. Unfortunately, I'm not really interested. He doesn't play for Arsenal anymore. In my head, he was never an Arsenal legend. So I'm pleased he's doing well. But I don't need to see his goals on my timeline when Arsenal are playing. It's about Arsenal. So it does wind me up, James. And let me tell you how many Aubameyang fans came for me on Twitter this week. It went on for 2 days. I think they thought I hated him or anything. It didn't work with him and Arteta. There was indiscipline there for a fact. Arteta decided, you know what? This isn't going to work. We need you gone. I'm building something here. He's happy at Barcelona. We're happy with how we're progressing. So I'm going to ask you, Cookie, do you think it was right that he left or are you upset that he's gone?
Do I think it's right that he left? Yes. Am I upset that he's gone? Absolutely not. I'm really tired of the Aubameyang stuff, to be brutally honest. We shouldn't still be talking about it. Like it's a non-point. He's gone. We've moved on. The fact of the matter is, for 12 to 18 months, he just wasn't performing for us. I don't think he was as bad in the time that he played this season as people made out. I think it was very clear that we weren't trying to shoehorn him in on the left. He was playing as an out-and-out striker. And in a lot of games, he did work really hard. He just wasn't getting the output that we needed. And then something happens. Whatever happens, we're probably never going to find out fully what that was. He overstepped the mark and Arteta said, that's it. And we know in the past he's had those disciplinary issues. But he's gone to Barcelona. He's doing really, really well, and I couldn't be happier for him. But frankly, like you say, I'm not too fussed. Like, the team is performing really well. Lacazette has come in, and I think you know, for all his flaws, he's making the players around him play better. And it's
Mm.
obvious where we need to upgrade. Aubameyang is going to be 33 this year. So irrespective of, you know, how well he's doing at Barcelona, it is short-termism, because I think it's unlikely that he's going to carry on doing this for the years to come. You know, I hope he does, but I don't think he would have done that at Arsenal. I think I can say, you know, hand on heart, he wouldn't have done that at Arsenal. So we would have had to invest, upgrade, and replace anyway. It's like we were talking about Granit Xhaka earlier on in the week. It's a similar situation. I still think he's got something to offer Arsenal, but eventually we're going to need to replace him due to his age profile and the direction we're going in with the club. So no, I'm not fussed about Aubameyang. I wish him all the best. I hope he carries on scoring, because it's great to see him happy. But, you know, for all three of us and for every other Arsenal fan, Arsenal comes first and foremost. And I'm just pleased that both parties are happy, but need to stop talking about it because it's not relevant anymore.
I wish people would just stop tweeting his goals when I'm watching Arsenal. I don't know what Arsenal fans are doing. Why are you watching his goals? And then anyway, so James, what do you think about the Aubameyang situation?
I honestly feel it's just one of those situations where it's kind of worked out for everybody. I hope I'm still saying that in May. I think the reality is that I don't think he would have produced this form at Arsenal. He's playing in a different league, a different team. And my strong suspicion is that he needed and wanted this move, maybe more than he even knew. I don't think he was happy at Arsenal. And towards the end, you know, it just wasn't working for him. And I think it's given him a new lease of life. Good luck to him. It would have been great if we could have got a replacement in January. Would have been brilliant. I think it would have helped. But in fairness, the guys who are there are doing a decent enough job. And we're still on track for what we want to achieve this season. Obviously, it's something that needs to be addressed in the summer. But I've got no truck with Aubameyang, no beef, no big problem. I'm genuinely... You know, who doesn't enjoy seeing that smile and seeing him play well and score goals? But yeah, it's not hugely relevant, I think, anymore to what's going on at Arsenal.
So Timmy FC has said, question, James, really enjoyed your book. Any ITK intel on who we're signing at ST? What's ST?
Striker.
Oh, I was thinking centre forward. Right, striker. So that leads on to what... Thank you for your comment, Timmy FC. That leads on from what you were just saying about getting a striker in Jan. So July is going to be massive for us, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And thank you for reading the book to me as well. That's very kind of you. Well, in January, we were at The Athletic, we were sort of reporting three names. They were Dusan Vlahovic, which we all know how that turned out. He went to Juventus. Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Alexander Isak. The two other names there are still in the mix. I think Calvert-Lewin's a fascinating one because he's sort of had a non-season. Like, he's been injured. Everton have been terrible. He's barely played. When he's played, he's not had chances. Who knows? It would be a gamble, you know, after that sort of season. Alexander Isak's got a big buyout in his contract, 80 million, something like that. Arsenal wouldn't want to pay that for him. I think you could understand that given his goal record this season, so they'd want to try and negotiate that. I think there are some other names coming into the mix as well. You know, someone in the comments, Terence Tibbs, said Jonathan David. I think he'll be considered. Phil Macker says Mbappe's coming on a free. Well, that's great news. You'll read that in The Athletic tomorrow. I'll write that up tonight. There's a couple of other names as well. I mean, Tammy Abraham, they looked at last season. He went to Roma, is having a fantastic season, scored 21 goals there. Problem will be price. You know, it will have gone up a lot from 12 months ago. One or two more. They're opening the net, as it were, a little bit from that three that we thought in January. But I still think those names will be in the mix. I don't know who it's going to be. And from what I hear, you know, there's debate, a little bit of debate, as there always is on signings. You know, the scouts think one thing, Edu thinks another thing, Mikel thinks another. What I will say is, in recent months, Mikel generally has got his way. So I think the guy that he wants will be probably the guy we end up getting, especially if he finishes the season in a strong position and gets himself a new contract in the process.
I have a feeling that he's going to sign someone that no one's even mentioned. That's so Mikel, That for me is what I think is going to happen. I don't talk about transfers, James, but I know so many people want to ask you if you know anything. So that's why I asked you that.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind doing transfers. I'll tell you what I know. If Mikel does sign someone we haven't mentioned, then that'll be great. But it'll be bad for me because it means I haven't been doing my job properly.
Well, I'm pleased we didn't sign. I can't say his name. Vlahovic. How would he even said his name? Vlahovic.
I mean, that's probably not right. It's Serbian, isn't it? So who knows?
No, I know. So okay, so I'm going to ask you both. Cookie, do you think we're going to get top 4? Is it yes or a no?
You just want a yes or no answer. No in-depth analysis.
Well, we all know that we've got 10 cup finals coming up. We all know Tottenham have got an easier run. It's all there for everyone to see, isn't it? I mean, in your heart of hearts, I'm on the fence. I coming into this season, I'm going to ask you both as well. So, James, Cookie, did you ever envisage top 4? Did you think 5 or 6 would have been where we were aiming for?
I'll let Cookie go first.
Yeah.
I'm massively deluded as an Arsenal fan, and I go into every season thinking we're going to get top 4. Like that's, I just always think of that as being the bare minimum. And that's definitely me being, like I say, massively deluded. But I think, the start of this season, after those 3 defeats, and even though we did get those results against the likes of Norwich, and I can't quite remember who else we just scraped by 1-0 against. I still wasn't entirely convinced, thinking we were capable of getting top 4 after what I saw last season. I've always thought there's routes back into the Champions League whilst we've been in the Europa, but I never thought, I always thought it was going to be difficult getting top 4 this year. But now with 10 games to go, I mean, we do look, the favourites to go there and do it. But I think it comes down to that game away at White Hart Lane. That's the one that's really sticking out like a sore thumb to me. Because if we lose that puts us in a tricky situation. But we've just got to beat the teams we can beat, starting with that game against Crystal Palace, which is a ground that we do tend to struggle at a little bit. But what we have done this season that we haven't done in previous years is we're avoiding these banana skins, and we're putting aside the teams that we should be putting aside. No disrespect to the teams that we are playing, but these are games that, when Wenger was in charge and getting those routine top 4s, these were the games we were winning, and we were winning them routinely. And I think the likes of Aston Villa and other teams that are performing a lot better, they're a lot stronger than they were maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I think we're doing really well to beat these teams. That one against Villa was a really good win for me. And if we can just maintain that consistency in those games against Palace, away to Southampton, for example, we've really got to beat United at home. If we can win the games we're supposed to, and just avoid defeat to Spurs. But I think we've really got potential to win that one. I don't think we should go into any game, any remaining one that we've got left, with any sort of fear. The one that sticks out is definitely the North London derby, but also the one away from home against Chelsea. But we're playing really well, and with the players we have got, if we can keep them fit on our day, I think we can beat anyone in this league. So I do think we'll get top 4.
It's interesting, when I went to the Etihad. Second game of the season, I was sitting with my City mates watching the Arsenal fans. I'm very proud of them that day because we absolutely got slaughtered. We were very good, both of them, for 6.5 minutes. We're absolutely brilliant. And then, I'm not joking. Yeah. Do you remember? I remember saying, my City mates were like, "You told us you're crap." And I said, yeah, I don't know what's going on. We're playing really well. And as I said it well. And then Xhaka gets sent off. And I remember as well, both of you, before the game, I bumped into Edu. Well, I didn't bump into him. Someone said, "There's Edu," and I just went. It was outside the Emirates. He was coming out of a car. I just went over to him, got a picture done. And honestly, I posted it on social media. And I did say to him, I said this. I said, I had a nice picture, and I went, "You need to sort our club out." And I don't even know if he understood what I meant, but he was like, bye. Anyway, went in. I remember putting the picture of Edu up with me, and I got absolutely slaughtered. People were hating on Arteta and Edu at the beginning of the season. It was awful. I felt like I should have taken the picture down, but I put it up because he's an invincible and it's Edu. And there's no way on earth he doesn't love this club and he wants it to go well. And honestly, if you'd have said to me, walking out of the Etihad on a very hot August day, that we were going to be in this position on March the 24th, I would have thought you was all drunk. I was more concerned staying in the bloody league at that time because with Brentford, City, then we played Chelsea. I didn't give us a chance again. And then all of a sudden we're on the lower half. Nothing was going right for us. Everything was going wrong. So at the beginning of the season, I was just praying to get 5th or 6th. To me, that was an improvement. That would have been massive to get in the Europa League. But now to have this chance is so close for us. But I think one of the banana skins will be Crystal Palace on a Monday night against Vieira. And it must be live. And oh my God, that's one of those that I have a feeling that we might not do so well in. I'll take a draw on that right now, if I'm honest. So, Mr. Gunnerblogg, beginning of the season, what did you think? And now what do you think?
Well, the good thing about me is I always have to say what I think or write it or say it on a podcast. So you can always go back and check. But at the start of the season, I thought we'd be 5th or 6th. I really did, because I thought we'd made some good additions, but we were 1 or 2 short. I don't know if you guys remember, but in the summer, everyone was talking about we need a centre forward, we need a centre midfielder. We didn't get them. We did a lot of business, but we didn't get them. So I thought they might be the difference between, say, 5th and 4th. And in fairness to myself, I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but after the Man City game and that dreadful start, I remember being on the Arsecast with Andrew and saying we can still finish top 6, and I really believed that at the time. And you know, we're still on course to do that. In fact, I'm one of these people who sort of quietly, while everyone's very excited about top 4, and I'm excited about it too, I'm also looking at the other results and thinking we're very close to securing top 6, because for me, like, that's what we have to do. Do you know what I mean? We have to be back in Europe. That is the next step. We need that. And I'm looking at the league and thinking we're really strong on that front. Like, I think we've, you know, if we don't do that, I'll be really shocked at this point. That would be a real collapse. As for top 4, of course, we've got a chance. We've got a really good chance. I've seen a couple of people in the comments saying the next 3 games will be crucial. And I agree with that. It's Palace away, then it's Brighton at home, Southampton away. After that, we go into a really tough run. We've got Chelsea, we've got United, we've got West Ham. But I think if we were to get 9 points from the next 3 games, I'm not saying it's easy, but if we were, I think that could break some of the teams around us. Like, because we would just look so relentless and have so much momentum that I think it could be enough to carry us through the rest of the season. Will we do it? I'm not sure. I'm
like that. I'm not sure.
I think if we get top 4 this season, we're ahead of schedule. We've done really well. If we don't, but we finish in the top 6, we're still playing good football, scoring goals, young players developing. I hope that the disappointment of not finishing in the Champions League places doesn't outweigh the progress that we've made. Not that I'm preparing to fail, but I do think that perspective will be important at the end of the season. But until then, let's gun for the top 4. Why not? We've got a really good puncher's chance. And there are some big games, like Cookie says, you know, West Ham away. That's not an easy game. Spurs away, United at home, Chelsea away. Big, big games. But we're playing well. I think we're playing the best probably out of anyone in the race. Spurs, very dangerous going forward, but they can be inconsistent. It's going to be so close. And that North London derby, to be honest with you, I just pray it's over by then. One way or the other. I don't know. My nerves will cope with a North London derby where we need the result. And
they are planning it, aren't you? You can see it's not been scheduled for April. It's going to be probably one of the last games.
It's going to be in the last fortnight. I'd say that's pretty sure. It's pretty certain. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be like an 8:15 kickoff on Sky Sports or BT or Amazon, and we are all and it won't. James, you do know that this is the Arsenal, yeah? There is no way it will be over by then. I'm sorry, it just won't. It won't. We'll probably lose a couple. They'll win a couple. It'll be like neck and neck, and I don't even want to go there. And they're still so angry about the fact that it was postponed due to COVID. I can't tell you what Tottenham fans are like about this match.
Yeah,
Going
they'll be
on,
really
on.
up for that.
Oh,
They'll be
really? I
up for that.
really
I've never been to
wish-
that ground, and I think I'll probably be at that one. And I'm slightly dreading it, to be honest. But if we were to win there, that would be very funny indeed.
If we're to win there, James, I wouldn't leave for about 4 hours if I were you. I've left there many times when, it's not nice. It certainly won't be nice if we.
Listen, you're talking to a man who's been to the
True.
crime-ridden estates of Marseille and come back.
It's not much different.
Yeah,
to be fair, but so I'm a little bit like you. I'm like not sure. I'm not sure. I honestly think, like you, for me, the 3 games are Crystal Palace, Chelsea, and Tottenham. They're the 3 that West Ham, I think, will be not as hard as I think it was, as we think it's going to be, if I'm honest. And oh God, let's hope it's
they're
done.
still in Europe as well, fighting on that front.
Yeah, you've got. It would be amazing, James, to go there already 4th and they can't catch us, and we literally play our football. But I've heard today that Saka's been withdrawn from the England squad because he's got COVID. So we wish him well. Just get some rest, and hopefully he'll back against Crystal Palace. Ramsdale's got an injury, so he's withdrawn, and ESR's the one left, isn't he? So just
and Ben White's there as well.
Oh, Ben White. I just hope our players come back, because we have got a very thin squad. We need everyone to keep fit for the next 10 games, don't we? Right. Oh,
we do, but credit to some of the guys who've stepped in as well. Who would have thought we'd be praising Cedric's performances? Bern Leno came in and did really well at the weekend. There have been 1 or 2 more who've come in and stepped up when required. So we're going to need more of that if we're going to make it to the end.
We're going to need more of that. We're going to need exactly what the fans were doing on Saturday, and our away fans are magnificent, absolutely magnificent. And I'm desperate for 1 ticket for West Ham away. Anyone, 1 ticket. I don't care where it is, as long as it's in the Arsenal end. I've put my feelers out already, because that's one of the games I want to go to. I don't want to go to Spurs. I hate going there. But anyway, right, both of you, just the most amazing show. I don't know where time has gone. I had so many other questions, so many other things to ask. But James, it's just been magnificent having you on, and I'm so honoured that you chose to come on my show. So thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, no, don't be silly. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Lovely to speak to you both.
It's lovely. Will you come back again?
I'm sure I will. And enjoy the international break, a bit of respite, not having to worry about the Arsenal results. And we'll all be looking forward to the Palace game.
Do you know what's interesting? I normally hate the Interdale. I hate it so much, but I'm actually liking this. I don't know why. I just think a good break might be a
when your last result is a good one. It's lovely, you can savor it.
Yeah, you can. Oh, Cookie, thank you for being my little right hand man.
That's all right. Anytime, Amanda. Pleasure, absolute pleasure as always.
Well, you're going to come back, aren't you?
I'm never going away. I'm always.
You're going to come back with Albert. So what we've been doing, James, is I've done a few post-game shows, so you get immediate reaction. Yeah, I've done 3. We've won 3.
You got to keep doing them then.
I know. So now Crystal Palace, when we finish at 10 o'clock at night, I'll be doing a post-game show with young Cookie and Albert as well. So
I hope you're celebrating.
Yeah, so am I. Everyone in the chat, thank you so much. This has been one of my favourite shows. Thank you for all your comments. So sorry I can get all the questions up. But next week I've got another really fantastic guest as well. So 8 p.m. next Thursday, I've got Stuart McFarlane, who is the Arsenal photographer.
Oh,
it's just
great.
I know. My other half
Get him
said,
to tell his Aboué story. Ask him about going around Aboué's house.
See, the thing is, James, right, I probably could spend about 5 hours talking to him from beginning to end of, the most amazing times he must have had and the photographs and everything. So 8 p.m. next Thursday, it'll be me and Stu, pictures galore, stories galore, and I'm probably just going to be sitting here staring at everything, listening to everything. So that's next week. And then I'm going to be back with Cookie and Albert for a post-game show from Palace. After that, I don't know. I don't care. I just want us to get top 4. That's it. I want us to beat Palace. So thank you all for joining us. See you all next week. Thank you to my wonderful guests. Honestly, Gunnerblogg, I've loved you. Brilliant. So nice to talk to you as well. Cookie, you've been fantastic. As always Arsenal. Always Arsenal.